got to talk about another guy that was up to be in the Hall of Fame, Barry Bonds. I have to talk about Barry Bonds. You can't talk about baseball in the Hall of Fame right now without hearing his name, and here is why. Barry Bonds, in my opinion, is the greatest hitter that the game of baseball has ever seen. For sure, the most feared hitter of all time. The accolades with him are endless. The most impressive accolades that you will ever find. 14-time MLB All-Star, 8 Gold Gloves. That's one thing you overlook. When you think of Barry Bonds, you think of how feared he is as a slugger. He won 8 Gold Glove awards. The awards just go on, but so do the MLB records that he holds. These are all records that Barry Bonds holds, all to himself. 762 career home runs, most of all time. 73 home runs in a single season, most of all time. 2,558 career walks. Nobody else is close. 7 MVP awards, 232 walks in a single season. In one season. A 609 on-base percentage in a single season and an 863 slugging percentage in a single season. All records that Barry Bonds holds. But here we are. The Hall of Fame voting has come to a close, and Barry Bonds is not in the Hall of Fame. And not only did he not make it this year, he is now off the ballot. This was his last opportunity to be voted into the Hall of Fame, and he did not make it. Why, you might ask? For those that don't know, I don't know who's still asking this at this point, but there is a steroid link. There is. Let's take a look at this tweet. Barry Bonds was accused of first testing positive for PEDs in November of 2000. Okay, that's 2000. Here are Barry Bonds' stats before the year 2000. A 289 batting average, a 412 on-base percentage, almost a 1,000 OPS, 494 home runs, and a 111.4 WAR, wins above replacement. That was good for 19th most all time before 2000. Barry Bonds had a Hall of Fame career before he was ever linked to steroids. Before that ever happened, he was a Hall of Famer. But then comes the link, and then the rest of his career, where we all know it just took off. He was absolutely incredible. But now here we are. He's not in the Hall of Fame, and he's not going to be. 10 years on the ballot, not voted in. Barry Bonds, in my opinion, is the greatest hitter that the game of baseball has ever seen, and certainly the most feared. And he should be in the Hall of Fame. But he's not. In my opinion, you cannot tell the story of Major League Baseball without talking about Barry Bonds. You can't. So now you go to this museum in New York that is the museum of the greatest baseball players of all time. And Barry Bonds, he's not in it. He's not in it. I think he should be. I certainly think he should be. But you know, I don't know the answer to this question. I don't know the way to go about it. I know the baseball writers need to be involved in the process, and the baseball writers, for those that don't know, are the ones that do the voting. It is their process. It is them and only them that vote for the Hall of Fame. And I don't blame them at all. They watch more baseball than everybody. So I don't know the answer. I certainly have some ideas of how we could go about it. I would like to see a new process involved. But here's what I do know. Barry Bonds isn't in the Hall of Fame, but he deserves to be celebrated for what he did on the field, for what he did in his entire career, for what he did prior to any sort of steroid link. He deserves to be talked about. He deserves to be admired. He changed Major League Baseball. He changed the game of baseball. And I remember growing up watching him as a kid, and every time he came up to the plate, he was must-watch television. Every single time. I mean, the stats with him go on and on and on. I named them earlier, but one of my favorites, and I'll end with this one. One of my favorite Barry Bonds stats. He is a member of the 500-500 club, which means 500 home runs and 500 stolen bases. He is a member of that club. He is the only member of that club. He is also the only member of the 400-400 club. Nobody's in that one either. 400 home runs, 400 stolen bases. The only member, Barry Bonds. 500 and 500, the only member, Barry Bonds. That's pretty impressive. I love this tweet from Big Cat as well. My favorite Barry Bonds stat from 2001 to 2004, 39.5% of all Barry Bonds at bats ended in a walk or a home run. In that time span, he also reached base in 94% of his games. And then he goes on to say, imagine not voting for the best baseball player of all time to be voted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. It didn't happen, but the stats are ridiculous. And what I wanted to do with this segment is just appreciate the player that Barry Bonds was. Because he was certainly one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest of all time. So thank you for everything, Barry Bonds, that you did on the field. It was certainly a joy to watch. Thanks for watching. If you love flipping bats, swinging 3-0, or just talking ball, join us. Call us at 213-537-9339 with your questions. We have a weekly guest, and we have a lot of fun, so hit that subscribe button.